all, and welcome to the Raptors Weekly Podcast for the week of October 3rd. I'm your host, William Liu, and joining me on the podcast, saving the podcast from dark technological problem times, is our rivals at Raptors HQ, the Grand Poobah himself, Daniel Reynolds. How's it going, Dan?
Hey, well, how's it going? I'm doing all right.
You've I don't know if you know this podcast. Do you listen to this podcast? You don't have to say yes.
I'll be honest with you. I don't listen to a ton of podcasts. I don't have a ton of time, and it's all blocked at work, so I can't do it.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, then this will come as a surprise to you, though, that you get mentioned on this podcast quite a bit.
I do?
Yes, on this podcast network. Yeah. Usually in the podcast I do with Blake, but yeah, we Blake often talks about dunking on you and.
It's trash talk.
A lot of trash talk, yeah. From
Blake and I joined forces the other day, and he's quite good at basketball. He sort of downplays it, but he knows how to play. That's the thing. That's the key thing. He knows how to play.
How'd it go? What did Blake do?
Well, to be fair, this team we played against was garbage. So it was it wasn't really much of a. He didn't have to do very much, but he was very good on defense, like he promised he would be, and he moved the ball, and he was a heady player. He ran the floor.
Wow.
He just doesn't have a lot of confidence in taking a shot, which he should take.
Oh, he's Patrick Patterson.
Yeah. Whereas I'm straight up gunner. I'll take shots all day. I don't care.
All right. Look, you guys got a little Patrick Patterson, Terrence Ross thing going.
That'd be nice.
Not to slander you with the likes of Terrence Ross or anything like that.
Yeah. We could have used them today. Actually, we only had one sub, and this team kind of ran us a little ragged for a while. We won, but it was like a little tougher.
Yeah, that's killer.
Yeah.
All right. Well. That's the podcast. What are we going to talk about here on this pod? So, we got 4 topics. We'll just run through them, and then we'll head into it. You didn't get to see the preseason game, right?
I unfortunately missed it.
You have a life beyond basketball? Is that what I'm led to believe?
Well, I had a family thing. I had a birthday event. Things happen.
It was Saturday night, man. But yeah.
It was also, yes.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. If listeners, you want sort of breakdown of the thrilling Raptors 97, Golden State Warriors 93 victory on Saturday night, you can go back and check out the post-game reaction podcast that I did. I apologize for the echo, but there's all the thoughts that you would want from a preseason game. It's all in that podcast. So, in this one, we will talk about the media day proceedings that went on. I know that's sort of a week old now, but Dan Reynolds was behind the scenes, live on location, taking a embarrassing video of Jonas trying to dribble a basketball. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about preseason in general. Like a guide to watching the preseason. What would you look for? Things like that. Then we'll talk about Jonas for a bit. Jonas is I don't know. This might be the year for Jonas's breakout. This might not be the year for Jonas's breakout. So we'll talk about that. And then if time permits, we can touch on some favorite basketball movies, because our man here, Dan, he is I don't know, man. Would I call you a movie aficionado? You're definitely an enthusiast.
I like one of those terms works for me. It's fine. I'm definitely an enthusiast. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes it depends on the crowd.
Well, I mean, you got the same page team thing going.
That's right.
Yeah. Check out his work there. It's good stuff. A lot of TIFF recaps and stuff since that was recent, but. First, let's talk about Media Day, baby. You were there. How would you? Did you enjoy Media Day as someone in the media?
It's sort of a fun thing. The novelty of it hasn't worn off for me. I know some of the guys there. It's a bit of a sort of show, and the people that are getting the most out of it are the people doing a lot of the photo and TV stuff. For the journalists, print journalists and bloggers, it's like you get some quotes, you get some stuff, but it's not, it's a lot of optimism. It's a lot of sort of upbeat stuff. That said, you can go digging for all kinds of interesting tidbits information, because the players, particularly the ones down the bench, are just hanging around. So you can, I know Blake was talking to everyone he could get his hands on, and it's like, yeah, that's there. That's open to you.
So did you get your hands on somebody?
I tried to talk to Siakam, but he was pulled away to do some TV thing. And I talked to Nogueira a bit. I actually told him I plan on writing about him every week.
Oh, is this a breaking news?
Yeah. Well, I was joking with him. I said, last season I did a James Johnson column every week, and he was sort of like, okay, yeah. I said,
which was an excellent column, by the way. Excellent.
Thank you. And then this year I'm going to write about him. I still have to figure out how I'm going to format. But anyway, so I did talk to him a bit, and then there's scrums going on, so you can get in there, and it's all fairly low pressure, and it's kind of fun. It's almost kind of like a back to school type thing, because a lot of the people there, some of them I hadn't seen since basically the end of last season. So, and since I'm not in the media per se, like I'm not working for a newspaper, I don't see some of the people every day. So to see, some of the people that I see that we were seeing all the time at games, it was like, hey, how's it going? How was your summer? That sort of thing. Okay. It's always nice.
Well, I kind of talked with Blake on Thursday, but it felt to me like, just as someone who was on the outside looking in from the media's perspective, it didn't really seem like the Raptors were, there weren't any sort of crazy quotes. It seems like the Raptors are pretty self-assured group. They're not out there promising anything.
Mm-hmm.
I think Lowry was asked what a successful season is, and he didn't point to like the championship, and he said he wanted a ring, but you're always going to say that, right? But like in terms of for the team, he didn't say like, oh, we got to go back to the the Eastern Conference Finals, we got to beat Cavaliers or anything like that. It was more sort of toned down, sort of measured, sort of optimism, because the Raptors are kind of an established product at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So what about Muscle Watch? Did anyone, in your perspective, from just gawking at these guys?
No, I think maybe Bebe looked a little bigger.
Wait, what kind of bigger? Because a lot of people are upset at Bebe right now.
Well, I don't know. I don't want to get too carried away talking about that guy. I feel like obviously this is it for him. This is the make or break year where the Raptors figure out if they can keep this guy around or not. And he even acknowledged the fact that it's not, people are looking at him going, you're the backup center, but it's not a assured thing. It's not a safe bet in the sense that the Raptors could go a different way. So, yeah, Lucas is in his own sort of the netherworld right now. But as for Muscle Watch, I don't know. I didn't see anything too crazy.
Is it just me, or did Bruno look bigger? His arms look more defined than in recent years.
He still looks like a very young guy. That's all I know.
It's crazy. He's still only 21. I think he's younger than Siakam.
I think so. Yeah. The difference is, and it's already, I think, happening. You see it on the court. Like, you see Bruno still looks like, even if he did get bigger, he wouldn't know how to leverage that bigness. Like, even now, he doesn't know how to leverage the fact that he's like 7 feet tall or 6'10" or whatever with huge long arms. He doesn't know how to do that yet. Yeah,
it's that basketball sense thing that needs to magically come together for Bruno. I think that's the next step for him.
Yeah, and that's the part where, again, like with Nogueira, the team has to sit there and go, okay, is it going to happen? Or like, are we wasting this roster spot? I mean, they're not wasting a roster spot because chances are whoever would be in that spot anyway would probably be a D-League player anyway. So fine, but this experiment might be coming to an end, and at the end of the whole thing, there's nothing to come of it. Anyway.
Yeah, well, read about the Brazilian duo. And, you don't have a name for the column yet, do you?
No, I have two ideas. I'm not going to spoil them.
Okay.
You'll see it in hopefully the next couple of weeks.
All right, cool. Yeah, I mean, Media Day is always just like a dog and pony show. One thing actually that I really wanted to ask you about Media Day was, so you posted a clip of Jonas dribbling a basketball. So for anyone who hasn't seen it, a lot of Media Day is composed of sort of TV networks grabbing stock footage of NBA players doing stuff that's eventually used in like the pregame promos and ads and all sorts of stuff, right? So what Reynolds here, what he captured was Jonas is standing in front of a green screen and he's trying to do dribbling moves like two basketballs. I'm not talking like Steph Curry level two basketball dribbling. I just mean like basic two basketball drills.
He put it through his legs. It was pretty impressive. He just lost control of it.
Twice.
He was bouncing them up and down with both hands, doing a good job. Then he started to try and get a little fancy with it, and it quickly got out of hand. That's basically what happened. And then all of a sudden, it's like, and I knew this was going to happen. I knew it was going to maybe get a little traction on Twitter. I did not expect you to aggregate it onto the Score website.
We needed it.
Anyway,
we needed that
yeah.
content. Mostly, I wanted to make not derogatory, but to just poke fun at Jonas, because he does look clumsy a lot, which is unfortunate. But Jonas is still a very good player. Actually, let's pivot into that. So there's a lot of expectations coming into the season for Jonas as well, because
are we jumping the order here? Is this...
we're a play by the ear, fly by the seat of your
right.
pants kind of podcast right here. Especially since I called you like 20 minutes ago to make sure you're on here.
Tell everyone that, man.
It's a transparent podcast as well. I had technical difficulties. You're the second choice. Thank you, though. Thank you so much for coming.
Hang up on this thing. Get me out of here.
Please don't. Please, we need you.
All right.
Jonas. So this is going to be a big year for Jonas in terms of expectations-wise. He's been a productive player, really serviceable starter for the last 3 years now. But there's always the sense, at least from the fan base, for me personally, that there should be more to come with Jonas in terms of his talents, and he's once he eventually matures into a player and gains sort of subtleties, he's going to break out and put it all together. And I guess All-Star would be something of a realistic potential for the guy. But this offseason, the Raptors lost Bismack Biyombo to free agency, which even puts a lot of pressure onto Jonas basically to carry him, because at center at least, because as you mentioned, Bebe's now the backup center, and no one's really sure about Bebe. But are we sure about Jonas in terms of do you feel like Jonas's breakout is happening like this season?
Do I think it's happening this season?
Yeah. Or are you confident that it's going to happen?
I don't know. I mean, it's funny if you go by those handful of playoff games before he got hurt. It did seem there for a moment like a whole new sort of world was opening up, where all of a sudden this guy was just going to lay waste to everyone. This has been pointed out after that first preseason game. It's like you put him with Sullinger, these guys can rebound the ball. Like they're just getting on everything. So I mean, there's some interesting potential there. Does he take over and start to put up like consistent like 20? I guess 2010 is the double doubles. Like this is sort of the target. Like as you said, to put him in that all-star discussion, he has to get his scoring average up from 12 to like 18, right? Let's say at least. Does it happen it only happens really if the team puts him in a position where he is the focal point of the offense. That won't happen, obviously, with Lowry and DeRozan, and really, for the most part, nor should it. But there's an opportunity there to sort of set him up in two-man games with either of those guys, to use him to prop up bench units. Like you can, I mean, I know that the bench unit, the go-to bench unit last year, where it was Lowry plus Joseph, Ross, Patterson, and Biyombo, now that has to be changed because you don't have Biyombo. So does that mean you're going with a small lineup with Sullinger and Patterson, or does that mean you're flipping Jonas into that spot and moving it around a different way? Like there's some interesting rotation questions that have to be sorted out, and I think one of those things you might end up seeing a few more minutes where it's like, okay, Joseph's going to drive the offense, for example, and we're going to see things where we look for Jonas. The question, of course, then becomes, is Jonas a heady enough player to take advantage of that? And I think you've made this point. Sometimes he seems like a bit of a machine. He gets the ball, dribble, and he makes a move. And the move is kind of the same every time. And it works, but it's like he doesn't seem to be a guy who's like coming up with new things on the fly or reading and reacting. And every so often when he does, it's very exciting. He finds a passing lane, or he passes out of a double team, or he does a move you don't expect. In the Olympics, I think, or I think it was the World Championships, one of those tournaments, he did a baseline spin. I was like, whoa, look at this! Like, all of a sudden it wasn't just the straight up hook shot that he always goes to. So, if he improves his range, which we've sort of been joking about for years, I mean, that's another sort of thing that all of a sudden opens it up. it does feel like he has all the tools. I just don't know. I mean, I don't know how much he puts it all together, or if he just becomes sort of, again, another solid season as the third wheel, and it's really a win-win for Toronto because he's on a very good contract. So even if he never does get any better than he is right now, he's still a valuable trade asset, and he's a good young center. So it's sort of, to my mind, it's sort of win-win. Like if you can, you can play him for the next 4 years and be very confident that you're going to get this kind of production, or like I said, if he becomes the centerpiece of some, big trade to get a big star, okay, great. Then like that works too.
Yeah, like you said, that is a good situation to have. I mean, regardless of any sort of criticisms that are sort of lobbied against Jonas right now, he is still a very effective starting center in the league. And, even with him playing the way he is right now in the somewhat limited capacity within the scope of the team, the Raptors have still been successful the last 3 years. Last 4 years, really. He was decent, I thought, as a rookie, too. A lot quicker than back then. A lot more Joakim Noah than the Roy Hibbert, sort of, in terms of speed.
But not heady like Joakim Noah. That's the issue. Not heady like.
Yeah. 4
years ago, Noah was making him look foolish because he would just, he knew how to trick Jonas in every sort of situation.
Yeah. Which hasn't really changed in terms of Jonas getting headiness, which I think is one of the bigger things with Jonas. But I mean, I guess part of the reason why we're all looking to Jonas to break out is not just necessarily because he has the physical tools and a really soft touch and great hands, good motor as well. These are all very important things, and stays relatively healthy. I mean, last year he broke his hand because Kobe broke his hand for him, but last 2 seasons before that, I think Jonas played in 161 out of 164 possible games in the regular season. So he's a durable guy, young. Works hard. This is all great things for a center. It's just, if he doesn't break out, it feels like the Raptors' ceiling is where it is right now because the team is kind of what it is, which is a really solid roster. And so they need a bit of internal development to carry them forward. And I guess Jonas is the biggest opportunity for that to be carried forward, unless you are like Sean Woodley, who is irresponsibly into Terrence Ross.
He definitely represents. Like there's all kinds of opportunities for internal growth. Obviously, like Norm Powell, Terrence Ross, Joseph has still got some room to grow. I mean, who knows? Let's not get crazy, but Pascal Siakam is showing some stuff. But Jonas definitely seems to be the guy that, as far as NBA across the NBA, he's one of the guys that stands out in terms of like if this guy becomes something special, he is the hardest sort of player to duplicate in terms of his skill set, in terms of what he brings to the team. What you can do with him, not to downplay some of the other Raptors, but like their skill set is a little more not easy to find, but it's out there.
Right.
Or it's easier to acquire. It's not always easy to find. Even with the NBA sort of shifting to smaller teams, smaller lineups, it's still hard to find like effective defensive and offensive centers that can do a lot of different things, like Jonas has shown he can do to a certain extent.
Yeah, and that's one of the things, too, is just there are flashes. Like you said in the playoffs, like the Game 2 against the Heat, remember that one? The Raptors were completely floundering. Yeah. Larry and DeRozan just shooting miserably.
Yeah.
And it's Jonas who steps up, sort of saves them at first with all these garbage baskets, sort of just crashing the glass, getting on the offensive glass putbacks. And then in overtime, he's taking over. He's taking pick and pops. He's guarding pick and rolls in space and getting blocks and getting steals. That was one of the most impressive performances I've ever seen out of Jonas. And then the next game, Game 3, the one he got injured in, before he went down, he had 16 and 12 in like 20 minutes. Just gave the business to Hassan Whiteside.
That's exactly it. When you see that happen, you're like, okay, like what in an alternate universe where one of Lowry and DeRozan aren't on this team, what happens? Like, if it's Lowry and Valanciunas, now all of a sudden this team is a pick and roll team, and they're looking for him every time, or they're making some move every time. And that's a really interesting combination. Like I understand obviously DeRozan's a valuable player too, but it's like it suddenly opens up this whole thing where now instead of having 3 guys that want the ball, you only have 2, and now the dynamic of the team shifts. And I feel like if there was ever an opportunity, like I said before, if there's ever an opportunity to find out how much of this you can rely on, now's the time. Now's the time to figure out how many 2-man groups you can roll out there where Jonas is the secondary option, and they look for him on rolls and in the post.
Yeah.
Maybe this is the time.
Yeah, I mean, I like what you said earlier. Like, as a possibility, you could sort of do something where you stagger Jonas's minutes so that he's playing a little bit more with the bench, or at least split from DeRozan. Because I do feel like DeRozan and Valanciunas, more so DeRozan than Lowry, but I guess to a smart extent Lowry too, but especially DeRozan and Valanciunas, like they are sort of in direct competition for who's going to get the ball, who's touching it, especially when you run pick and roll, right? Like you just rarely see DeRozan pass to Valanciunas after he gets a high screen.
Yeah, they don't complement each other very well, and that's fine. But
I wouldn't say that. I think they're effective. It's just like, especially as a pick and roll combination, because Jonas has great screens. When he rolls, he does move defenses, and DeRozan's a great driver. They're both great pick and roll numbers in terms of just efficiency number-wise. It's just, I don't think it's a case where DeRozan's going to be. I think his number one option is always going to be to shoot after the high screen.
Yeah, and sorry, that's what I mean by sort of they don't complement each other. Is that where when they're playing together, you're not seeing Jonas like he's an effective, as you say, he's an effective eater of space, and he does things for DeRozan, but you're not seeing a lot of like. You're not seeing the roll happen where the ball's then finding him very often on the move. Whereas Lowry, I think, will look for that a bit more.
Yeah.
But again, this rotation situation. I mean, assuming Sullinger's the starter with Jonas, they're going to see what kind of, just like with Scola, obviously an improved situation, but just like with Scola last year, the difference is now off the bench, unless they're going to start giving heavy minutes to Nogueira. Your only big is Patterson, so so something's got to stagger there in terms of how the minutes you're going to shift around, and how many minutes you're going to give to this whoever, whether it be Nogueira or whether they're going to throw Siakam in there or they're going to go with these small lineups, which are a possibility as well.
Yeah. Well, though, yeah, those ones are a little bit tricky too, because I guess the guy who would slide up to power forward in that case would be Carroll, but Carroll's got this continuous knee injury, and if you got a guy with a knee injury, I don't know how much you want to play him in the front court. All right. So.
Well, then it becomes a matter of matchups, right? I mean, if he's out, if you're playing the Pacers and they're going to run super small and he's got to guard Thad Young or Paul George, okay, fine. But if they roll out, if you're playing the Jazz or something and they're going to roll with their monster lineup, then yeah, you have to rely on your big men, and then all of a sudden it's like it looks real thin behind Jonas.
Yeah, exactly.
In terms of getting a reliable. Again, I mean, we forget now in sort of in the glow of the playoffs. It was like because Biyombo was so huge, but yeah, there were games where he was kind of all over the map. But at least he was a guy you could count on in those 15, 20 minutes. Whereas now we really don't know, and there's not really anyone else who's protecting that rim. I mean, hopefully Nogueira can do it. That's really the question.
Hopefully. He's got the Spanish ACB Defensive Player of the Year title back in 2013, I think. So
I don't know what that says about the Spanish ACB league. I don't know, but anyway.
Yeah, I'm guessing there's not a lot of dudes with 9'6" standing reaches like Bebe there.
Yeah,
yeah, I know what you're saying. Yeah, it's weird. It's strange after sort of seeing Jonas in his role in this, and I feel like Jonas hasn't really changed that much. I feel like the team has asked him to do different things, but for the most part, Jonas has looked like the same player for pretty much 3 years now. Mm-hmm. Hopefully this is the one. Oh, our guy Stephen LeBron, aka Alex Wong. It's his birthday apparently, huh?
Yeah, you just tweeted that. You didn't see that?
Oh, all right. Happy birthday, Alex. I'm sure you're listening to this, man.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, that's enough fluff for Raptors HQ, guys.
Thanks.
Yeah, you guys are a good bunch of people. Yeah. All right, Jonas. So that's it for Jonas. Well, actually, let's transition here. So, you said you didn't catch much of the Raptors preseason game. Massive, monumental victory over the eventual championship, winning Golden State Warriors. But I can tell you, unfortunately, that Jonas did not look great in that one. It was weird because I thought it was a bit strange where Dwayne Casey, I think on Friday at training camp in Vancouver, I'm watching some of those videos interview videos that the Toronto Raptors put up. And what did he say? So Casey said Jonas is he's still sort of working his way back from the Olympics. What he said was, right now I think he's still having a little lag from coming from Europe, coming from the Olympics. So right now he's working himself in a tip-top shape, which is coach speak for Jonas isn't fully fit.
Is he? But he's not fully fit. I mean, why would he not be fully fit? I don't understand.
I don't know. I thought it was strange when I heard the comment. I was like, oh, why would that? If anything, playing the Olympics would make you, keep you more fit because it's more activity. But, in the short, 15 minutes that Jonas played on in the first preseason game, he did look quite lethargic.
Really?
Yeah, looked pretty slow, especially in the second half. It just could barely get out there to the perimeter on pick and pops against David West. You're covering in space has always been one of Jonas's problems, and one of the ways that defenses have been able to attack the Raptors has always been to target Jonas and make him move in space. But yeah, it was a disappointing performance from Jonas in preseason. But it's just preseason. It's just one preseason game. A lot can change. You shouldn't take too much out of it. So what I'd like to ask you is, with how meaningless preseason games are, what should you look for in preseason?
Well, first I just want to say about Jonas. What disappointed me more was his Olympic performance.
Oh,
just in that I felt like he was like the team had gradually sort of shifted to him being the centerpiece, and to see them lose like that, Lithuania lose, and then him to be like, I got to get my head right. It was just like, what is going on? Like that was more concerning to me than a preseason game. Okay, the first game back. I mean, we're all rough the first game back. That's fine. So in the preseason, generally what I look for is trying to see, particularly the sort of more marginal players, where they're at, how they're fitting in, what kind of little things they're doing. I mean, it's not like if Ross comes back and shoots 1 for 10 from the 3-point line, it's like, oh, like I'm not sweating it.
Oh yeah, your boy Ross, by the way, had a good game against the Warriors.
Yeah. So that's kind of exciting in the sense that, like, it seemed like he was. I saw some highlight clips and I said, okay, he's getting after it, and that's sort of what I would look to see. If Ross is missing shots, okay, fine, but the fact that he was sort of making moves and being aggressive with the ball, it's like, okay, that's I guess maybe that's what it is. You're grading on a curve of expectation. It's a preseason game. You're playing. It's like when I was watching summer league games. It's like. You're sort of watching the competition is kind of all over the map. The play, you're seeing a lot of players that aren't going to get a lot of minutes in other situations. So you're just trying to see what the players do in those sort of opportunities. If they get a chance to play 15, 20 minutes, are they now trying to shoot the ball every time they touch it? If their job is to sort of set up the offense or sort of play within themselves, play controlled, and they do that, okay, that's good too. If their job is to be an energy player and not make mistakes, okay, that's good. Like that's positive as well. So, and also just looking to see who belongs. Mm-hmm. I think the sense I got reading about the game, it's like, okay, everyone was kind of very excited about Siakam. Poto looked a little overwhelmed, and that's fair. And so then you could sort of get your finger on the pulse of going, okay, like can this guy be on the team, or does he get to go back to the D League? And in this case, also you're also looking in this specific case, you're also looking to see if the Raptors actually sign one of those 6 extra bodies they got, and see if one of those guys ends up becoming the 15th man on the team.
Let me tell you, Fred VanVleet looked pretty damn good for a guy who had 5 points.
I didn't really know. I mean, I didn't really know much about him. Blake sort of obviously he's all over it. He's all over the beat.
Blake's a maniac, man.
He's all over the VanVleet beat, but in summer league he was definitely a guy who it was clear that like DeLon, Wright, and Powell were like in control of that team in summer league, and they were, particularly Powell was like a head and shoulders above most of the players there. But VanVleet would come in and you'd see just a steady hand. We're going to hit our spots. We're going to make our plays. Took the shot, took the 3 when it was there. Wasn't afraid to make the move that he had to make. And if you're Dwayne Casey watching this, you're going, okay, my third string point guard is injured, and I've got a guy here who's the biggest knock on him, I guess, is that he's maybe a little undersized, but. If we put him out there and they put him in a 2-guard lineup, it's like, all right, can he hang with them, and can he hit an open shot, and can he play with composure? check. Okay, that's an interesting thing to see. It's one game, but Van Vliet's been doing that since like I said in July and in the summer league he was doing that.
Yeah, and this is a guy that has a lot of experience playing 2-point guard sets dating back to his time with Wichita State, which is probably something I lifted from hearing Blake say. If I'm going to be completely honest.
Yeah. I'm not tend to comment on NCAA stuff. Like I said, I watched Van Vliet play in summer league, and I saw someone that was playing in control.
Yeah.
And that was something that, like, okay, if you're going to be a third string point guard, which, they're not. If you're D'Angelo Russell, yeah, they'll take a few sloppy plays because it means he's trying things, he's trying to make passes, trying to make plays, he's trying to go for these big things. But if you're the third string point guard, you're coming in to make sure the team runs its sets, everyone's playing smart and in control, and he does that. So that's something that, again, you look for, you see it, and you go, okay, maybe he's the guy.
Yeah, it was him and what's his name, Drew Crawford yesterday.
Yeah,
but actually they both look pretty solid. Although Drew Crawford's a lot more looking for his shot, so like that, which is totally fine. That's his game.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's I guess that's one of the things to look for in preseason is the training camp battles and stuff. But
this happened, right? Like last year, there was no training camp battle, right? They had 15 guys. They got Bennett as their 15th guy, and that was it. So it's not always that's not always the narrative, but
Anthony Bennett's still in the league.
Well, that's right, yeah.
He's with the Brooklyn Nets. Man, that's gonna be a hot seller, that one.
What a team! Grievous and Lynn and Louis Scola. Wow.
Yes, a lot of Raptor cast-offs on that team.
Yeah.
Wow, jeez. Yeah, good luck with that one, Brooklyn. I don't know if anyone's going to watch that game, those games, except for Alex, of course. I think he's going to be there every game to cover Jeremy Lin, my guy. Foe-hating, tea-hating, coffee-hating Jeremy Lin.
What a heel turn from Jeremy Lin.
I know, right? This is
the Asian community is turning on him for his hot soup takes. I can't believe it.
A lot of people are turning on Cam Newton for his takes on matters much more important than soup, but let me tell you, it's a similar type of heel turn that's happening with Jeremy Lin and soup right now. So, look, Asians, we love our soups, man. Come on, you can't hate on Asian soups, yeah.
An entire movie's built around that. I built it around finding a good bowl of ramen. So,
are you talking about what's that show?
It was a movie called
David Chang's Cook. You know what I'm talking
about? I do not.
Okay,
I'm not big on cooking shows.
They're great. I love cooking shows.
All right.
They build your appetite. I like to eat while watching cooking shows.
I don't know how you do that. I have seen movies. They had a series at TIFF, at the Lightbox, of food on film. And so you go watch movies, and the series of films was shaped around the food experience in the film.
Yeah.
So it was like, so I went there to see. I don't know if you ever heard of the magazine Lucky Peach.
Yeah, Lucky Peach, yeah.
Yeah, one of the guys was there. We watched Chungking Express, and which has like a lot of like rich, like food, and it's a very sort of stimulated movie. Like lots of stuff's happening. But anyway, it had some very powerful food scenes.
Nice. Well, speaking of movies. And your
I did that for you.
This is look. We have good interplay here, man. We're like a 2-point guard lineup. We're like Gravis Vasquez and Kyle Lowry in the first year. That was fun times. I like those split pick and rolls I used to do. Anyway.
Oh man.
Movies. Yeah, you are a movie aficionado, man. You're out here talking about food movies, which I didn't actually know existed, to be quite honest with you. Aside from No Reservations with.
Aaron Eckhart?
Aaron Eckhart, yes. Aaron Eckhart. Who else? Who was the female lead in that one?
Oh, man.
Catherine Zeta-Jones. Catherine Zeta-Jones.
Oh, right.
And
that's why she's fallen off the face of the earth.
Oh, yeah. Anyway, that's a shame. That one. And also Aaron Eckhart's a terrible, terrible chin dimple. It's massive. It's hard to not see that thing. It's like
his career.
Infinity.
I don't want to go into a big sidebar here, but his career did not go the way I thought it was going to go. I really thought he was going to. I was at the TIFF premiere of Thank You for Smoking, and it was like it was like watching this guy for like an hour and a half was like, wow, this guy could do anything. And then it was like a string of bad movies, like, or just movies that no one cared about for like a solid, I mean, other than like The Dark Knight, which really put his profile up there. It's like, what is another Aaron Eckhart movie that you are in on? Nothing.
No reservations, man.
No.
I was really in on that one where he's a gregarious chef who teaches her to love and also cook, even though she's a master cook. Yeah. Great movie, guys. Go check that out. Don't check it out. Yeah. These movies you check out about basketball movies. So
yes.
We're still sort of clinging to the depth of off-season stuff. So let's talk about some more fun topics here. Since you're a movie aficionado, let me ask you, in general, actually, do you enjoy basketball movies as a movie format?
I would say it's usually no, partly because most of them are not. I feel like it's hard to edit basketball movies. Like it's hard to make the basketball scenes work.
Right.
So you get a lot of like, you watch like a semi-pro where it's like, yeah, they play the basketball for laughs,
mm-hmm.
or it's like some weird situation, and it's like, and they always have to figure out a way to get either pro players involved, which obviously is not great because they're usually not very good actors, or they have to use actors to play basketball, but then they're not usually good players.
Right. So
it's a real problem because it's not like a baseball movie where you can sort of stand around and I don't know what other good, and football movies. I guess they don't even do anything. They stay away from the action altogether.
Mm. Yeah. So I mean, most of it's at least I personally find it's just some love story happens.
Yeah.
They go through some adversity as a team. They come together and then they hit a game-winning shot. Which is Hoosiers.
Yeah, and see, I feel like that's the other thing is that the basketball movies, they haven't really explored. I will admit, this is actually, now that we're talking about this, I realize the big sort of movie basketball movie I haven't seen is He Got Game. I actually have not seen that. And I feel like for multiple reasons I should. Partly because Spike Lee directed it, and Denzel, Ray Allen, okay. But I feel like we haven't gotten a lot of like basketball movies that like baseball movies, there's every single type of baseball movie that you could ever manage to see.
Mm-hmm.
Covering every single different angle of the game. Kids, people,
dogs,
women in the sports, like all kinds of, just every single different type of thing. Different time periods, different, like everything. Basketball movies, it's like, there hasn't been a ton of, like Blue Chips explored like the sort of collegiate athlete experience a little bit. And I don't know, Love and Basketball was about something. That was good, I guess. I don't know. That's it. I don't know. Like, White Man Can't Jump, okay, pick up basketball. But then they had to mask the fact that Wesley Snipes couldn't play basketball. So, like, I mean, it's tough.
Yeah, he had a really high dribble.
Yeah.
Woody
can play, though, apparently. But anyway.
Woody looked pretty natural in that one, actually. I was really impressed with Woody's performance. I've also been pretty impressed with the fact that Woody looks like mostly the same 30 years later.
Yeah. He's he's aging very well.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
All right, man. You got a favorite basketball movie?
Well, it's funny. This kind of almost diminishes it. But Hoop Dreams, the movie Hoop Dreams, the documentary,
mm-hmm.
By the director Steve James, who some people may know, he directed the Allen Iverson, the 30 for 30 Allen Iverson documentary.
Right.
So he's got a real interesting grasp on not just basketball, but also like social sort of and racial narratives in America. So Hoop Dreams, if you don't know, is about basketball, but really it's about what it becomes. Like, the directors of the movie, their names escape me at the moment. The directors of the movie find these two kids when they're 13 and film them for 5 years, and made this huge experience of them going through high school basketball, where they're already in Chicago, where they're already being scouted. And what's amazing is they're the best two kids, in their playground and in their school. But it opens up this image of just how far away they still are from any sort of real professional basketball future.
Mm-hmm.
And it highlights sort of some of the institutional sort of stuff that goes on to get some of these kids from usually poor urban neighborhoods into some of these fancier schools to get them to play, and the sacrifices they have to make to do it. Like, they're riding a bus for like, an hour each way or 2 hours each way or something to go to these schools. And then the most fascinating thing is at the beginning of the movie, one kid seems like a lock to be like a really great basketball player. The other one seems like he's kind of, he has to leave this school, and like his family's poor. At one point, you see his mother, like, they're really struggling to make ends meet. And you're like, oh man, this guy's not really living on the edge here. And then somehow the narrative turns and it goes in a different direction. And you're watching this huge thing unfold, and it really is like more satisfying than a fiction film, even though, they had no idea it was going to turn out like this over multiple years. Mm-hmm. It's really incredible. And it was controversial. Then it didn't get nominated for Best Documentary. And Roger Ebert railed against that for years. He said it's the best movie of the decade, of the 90s. Yeah,
I was actually I'm doing some research now.
Yeah.
Roger Ebert, I'm pulling up one of his old reviews from when it came out in 1994. He said, it gave us the impression of having touched life itself.
Exactly.
That's always what I want to see out of a movie.
Yeah, it's a really epic thing, and like some of the best. So to say it's about basketball, it's really about like all kinds of social issues and life in America, and it's like that OJ documentary recently. It's got this thing where it's about something, but it also sort of touches on this much broader issue, and it's incredible because you realize how much work had to go into making it. It's just like, wow, I don't know how you make it, but yeah, it's great. So that's my pick.
Everyone, check out Hoop Dreams. If that review doesn't sway you, I don't know what will. I was gonna put my vote in for Like Mike, but for an entirely different reasons. I just had a lot of fun watching that in school and stuff. It was always a good rainy day movie, just to see Like Mike show up and like. Who makes a very random appearance in that movie is Michael Finley, along with Steve Nash and Dirk Nowitzki as members of the Mavericks. I think Corey Margetti's also in the movie somehow.
Really?
Yeah. This is like before I became a big Raptors, or before I became a big basketball fan. So only afterwards, watching in adulthood, when I was like, oh my God, that's Michael Finley, someone who I would never recognize unless I was a major basketball fan.
Yeah.
But
yeah, it's funny. I don't know.
All right. I guess that does enough. That does it for this first half of the podcast. We'll come back with Twitter questions. I don't know, actually. Do you have time to stick around for questions, or you got to go?
Well, I don't know how long these usually go for, but I got about 20 minutes.
Okay. All right. Look, we will come back with Dan Reynolds. We will answer as many questions as we can before Dan has to go. So come back for segment 2. All right, welcome back to segment 2 of the podcast. We're going to quickly take some Twitter questions with our guest, managing editor at Raptors HQ, Dan Reynolds. I don't know why I was going to say Dan Hackett. You're not Dan Hackett.
We got a lot of Daniels there. There's Daniel Grant, Daniel Hackett, and then me.
All right.
And yeah,
you're the most important Dan.
Well, maybe.
Yeah. In the Raptors game, you're the most important Dan.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
It's a big honor. So, yeah, if you ever want us to answer a question, hit us up at Raptors Republic. Don't hit up at Raptors HQ. At Raptors Republic is the one to hit up.
Oh, wow.
Okay, the first one comes from at Norm Powell God. Should Pascal start working on that 3 with Bebe? So you didn't see the preseason game, but with 40 seconds left, the Raptors are up 2, I think.
Oh.
And there was like 15 seconds left on the shot clock. A pick and pop occurred with Pascal Siakam. Siakam's wide open at the top of the arc. No hesitation. Puts up the 3. It banks off the glass, off the rim, and it bounces out. And it's just like, oh my God, that could have cost the Raptors this entirely meaningless preseason game.
Right.
But then Siakam made up for it in the next possession. He got an offensive rebound, and it got a putback, and that sealed the game. So, yeah, I don't know, man. Do you want to see Pascal shooting 3s?
I would say now, no.
Mm-hmm.
I think, I'm willing to bet Casey probably pulled his hair out when he saw him shoot that shot.
Seriously.
Huh?
Yeah, for sure, definitely. I did.
I don't think they want him. It's one of those things where if he at some point can, just like with Podol, it comes down to gradually extending their range. But they definitely didn't draft Siakam now because he has 3-point range. They got him now because they like his motor, they like the raw skills that are there, and they like the fact that I think he's a pretty, for the most part, he's a pretty heady, like not heady, but like instinctually smart player. It seems like. That's just the sense I get. But of course, I only watched him play for 15 minutes back in July. But he seems very comfortable for the most part. Even if he's shooting threes, he shouldn't take.
Well, let me tell you, a lot of these questions are about Pascal, and none of them are more optimistic than from at Corner Tray. Can Pascal defend elite wings? I think that comes from. Actually, no, sorry. There are more optimistic ones on that. Sorry. Well, that's a more realistic question. What about that one? Do you think Pascal can defend elite wings? I don't think anyone can defend elite wings.
Who's an elite wing? Are we saying like LeBron James and Paul George and like those?
Let's say like Rudy Gay and Gordon Hayward.
I think there's a universe there where he is a small ball. I know they're saying backup center, but I mean, I don't know if he's not really.
He's not a center. He's 6'9".
He's not a center. He's not really like that bulky. I think his skill set is definitely going to be. That's the other reason why the Raptors like him. I think he's quick for his size, and I think he's got some pretty good reach and movement. Can he guard elite wings? Again, not now, but I mean he's definitely going to work. I definitely could see them. Like, I don't know, maybe trying it, seeing what he can do. I don't know. It's too early to tell now, but
yeah, I mean he's definitely got the athleticism to move around. In terms of guarding elite wings, though, it's hard. I think if you're talking about guarding on the perimeter on some certain switches, I think he could handle it better than I think the average big. But yeah, it's still a long ways to go, guys. We've seen like half of a preseason game and half of a summer league game, but that might be enough in some people's minds to ask from at Semprini15 under 10 career MVPs for Siakam. My God,
wow,
10. What do you think?
I will take the under on that one.
Oh yeah. Hater. Yeah. Hate her. Yeah.
Sorry.
Cannot deny Siakam.
I don't deny. I've been very much in on him from the beginning. There's something about how he's carrying himself so far that I like.
Yeah. He's got. Yeah. I hate the comparison to Bismack Biyombo. I think Siakam himself shot it down. Right. Yeah. He was like, I don't want to be the next Bismack Biyombo. I want to be the first Pascal Siakam, which is a great attitude to take. But in terms of just like. Being
it's just lazy comparison.
Well, yeah, exactly. Just two African ballers, like they have to be one and the same. No. Yeah. But Siakam kind of has that sort of confidence and that sort of I won't say he's aloof, but just like a quiet, bubbly confidence. Mm-hmm. Even though if he's someone who's very much inexperienced, especially for this level, and he only started playing basketball like 4 or 5 years ago in an organized setting. He's like there's a lot of reasons to be high on this dude. I don't know about 10 MVPs high, but don't count it out.
But I think it would be one of those things where I'm going to make another crazy comparison. It'll be kind of one of those things like with Giannis in Milwaukee, where he might do a couple of things. Let's say this season Pascal gets a few minutes here and there and does a couple of things where you're like, whoa, look at that. Mm-hmm. But then that'll be it. It'll be a couple of things, a couple of flashes. And you're like, okay, and it will take a few more years for, that to be honed into something. That's sort of thing. I think the thinking, why it's very fair to feel optimistic, is that it doesn't feel like a crazy stretch to see that happening. Whereas to compare him, for example, with someone like Bruno, where you're still sort of going, I don't know if this is going to become something.
Yeah, that's
Whereas with Pascal, it feels like you're looking at it going, okay, there's a pretty good chance this guy could become at least a reasonable player, like where he could be helpful to a team, And for a 27th pick, right? 27th, yeah,
27th,
that's good. Just like with Powell, where you're like 46th pick. If the ceiling on Powell is, a backup shooting guard who can shoot threes and play some defense. Hey, all right. I mean, like if that's all he ever becomes, still for 46th pick, that's what you want. That's what you hope to get with your second round picks.
Yeah, I think it's very much the same, like in terms of, like with Powell, right? In this first year, you saw him do some things you feel relatively confident that he can continue doing. Things like just being an athletic dude on the wing who could push the pace in transition, staying aggressive, and then also his shot looks a lot better, and you're confident that he's able to at least, step into those shots and be willing to take those shots. And I don't know if he's going to hit 45% as going forward, but, he looks good. You can definitely see how that would work. With Siakam, it's kind of the same way as well. Like, you could see how with his athleticism, with his mobility, with his sort of motor, very much fit the scouting report of what we knew of him coming out of New Mexico State. It's like a very, very energetic dude, quite athletic, versatile, and it has some offensive, skills. He hit a nice little floating 12-footer. In the first preseason game. So, look, Siakam, man, maybe Siakam is this year's norm. I think that's probably the biggest compliment you can pay a dude right now.
And I feel like that's how it might go. It might be he goes to the D League for a bit, and then the team, I'm not gonna the team might need another big man, and they go like, let's say things with Nogueira sort of get a little shaky, and they go, okay, let's give Pascal a shot to give him a few minutes, because really all they want him to do is they wanted to, like, this is why they compared him to Biyombo. Beyond the sort of lazy, they're both African players. It's that's really the role they foresee for him. They want him to be a hustle guy, a guy who can protect as much of the court as he can, and to sort of be in the, get his hands on all kinds of rebounds, and that's it. And if he can block a shot, okay, great.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and I think that's where he's not the defensive presence Biyombo will, but of course he can catch the ball, move with the ball, make plays with the ball. It's still raw, but he's already shown more skill, like in motion, than Biz had. Even though Biz got much better. Biz did get much better by the end of the year, but much better for Biz was like catching the ball while running. So,
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think that's enough for Siakam. He's still a rookie. So guys, let's calm down a little bit.
Yeah.
Pivoting away from Siakam to Terrence Ross. Speaking of a guy with unlimited potential. And it's really Alfred. Alfie. Hey, we had a conversation with Alfie way back when.
That's right, we did.
Yeah.
Michael Caine classics.
Michael Caine, yeah. Not just a butler. Not just a sad butler in every movie.
Definitely not.
Yeah, he had a career before Batman, which I think is lost in my generation. But
it definitely is.
He asks, what part of Terrence Ross's offseason was more important to his chances of success? Dropping 15 pounds or dropping Amber Rose?
Oh, wow. He's a young man. Let him live his life.
I'll say this. I'm not quite sure why he dropped the 15 pounds. Like,
that seems kind of odd to me.
Not a big dude at all.
Yeah.
He's always skinny.
Where did that news come out anyway?
I'm not sure. I've seen a couple of people talk about it, so I'm assuming it's true. So that's how journalism works.
Yeah. Right. Okay. He doesn't strike me as a guy who really needed to lose 15 pounds. That being said, I don't think he's one of the guys who needs to be a huge, like, bulking monster.
Yeah, he's a shooting guard.
Yeah, I think his strength is quickness and, like, agility. So you start packing muscle on that, maybe that's not the best thing, but 15 pounds, yikes. All right. I'm not going to touch any sort of comments about Amber Rose. He had a good time. That's it. Move on.
I miss how confident he was in himself when he was dating Amber Rose. But, I think he could succeed outside of that, too.
You ever played basketball in front of, like, a girl that you like or your girlfriend or something? It's, like, it is very invigorating.
It is.
I will say that. It is very invigorating.
Yeah. Have you ever played Ultimate Frisbee in front of a girl you like? Because that's something I can relate to.
I'm a white guy, but I'm not that white.
Apparently, I'm whiter than you now.
Well, I have not played any Ultimate Frisbee guys.
I love Ultimate Frisbee guys.
Yeah, all right.
I also like basketball a little bit. Next one comes from @RealLiveRob. There's some underscores in there, but will JJ be missed more than we thought? I feel like you're a good guy to answer that, considering he was your muse for most of last season.
Yes and no. I think his role in the locker room was kind of interesting. Not that I was in the locker room a lot, like in terms of behind closed doors, but I think it was telling. A couple of things were telling. One is Blake was closer to this than me. Is that he was always around the D League team, and and I think he had an interest in sort of being involved in that.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it was very telling that then in the locker, like I think Johnson gets this kind of head case label because he's bounced around the league and like obviously had some problems with the Raptors when he was here the first time, and he it was a matter of maturity, and also sort of he is kind of inconsistent all over the place. But I think there was something about his presence on the roster, and they put like his locker was next to the rookies, like near DeLon and Norm,
mm-hmm.
and it always seemed to me anyway. I wrote about this in one of the columns that he was a bit of like the center of things going on, like Lowry and DeRozan are doing their thing. They're in the scrums. They have to be the all-stars. Jonas is on Planet Jonas, but then you got this kind of interesting thing where it's like Johnson and Stoll are in the middle,
yeah,
and then radiating out from there were all these young guys, and I just thought it was interesting. And again, I just felt like Johnson was sort of a little bit in the center of that, and also I feel like he's the kind of guy who struck me as like he'd have your back, for better or worse. Like if like he was going to have your back. He'd be there to say, hey, good job, or be like, hey man, smarten up. Like I feel like I don't know. That's just the sense I got. Will you miss it? I mean they're not going to miss him on the court too much. I don't think. I mean, like he's a good sort of spot solution, but I mean I don't think he's like I don't know what you're really missing.
Yeah.
So,
and especially last season, he in previous seasons, like in 14-15, like he was effective as a scorer with the ball in his hands. Could distribute a little bit. Last year, I just felt like he was really out of it. His numbers were kind of way down, even though whatever they're limited samples and everything like that, but just wasn't as effective last year either. So.
I think there were some injury things. There were some games there he missed near the end where it was like, oh, is this and he's sore or this and that. It was clear they were going to let him go because it's like, well, you're not going to spend resources. He's an interesting fit, and it was interesting that they brought him in. It seemed like they brought him in so clearly to be that sort of, big wing guard, defender that they needed.
The James Johnson stopper. The Joe Johnson stopper.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But it was clear. Like for example, like you'd say on paper you go, yeah, you can body up LeBron, and it's like, well, you know what, Patterson did a really good job of guarding LeBron. So like it's not, as good as a job as any human being on the face of the earth can do, but it's like his skill set was so limited, or his what they needed from him was so narrow a use that it's like, well, you're not going to miss it per se. Guys like that come through and they help out and then they go.
Yeah.
So,
That's true. There will be more JJs.
To a certain extent.
For you to write about.
Yeah, right.
This year will be maybe. Only guys who have alliterative last names. Or repetitive last names.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. All right, last question comes from the Mike Agati. Sign one, trade one, waive one. Okay?
Ooh.
Lowry in 2015. Bosch in 2007. And T-Mac in 2000. So you got to sign one, trade one, waive one.
Wait, say that again. Lowry in
15.
Yeah.
Bosch in 07. T-Mac in 2000.
Oh. Sign, trade, and waive. Oh my God. Oh, man, that's an impossible question.
I mean, if you're talking about just strictly getting the best team together, I feel like Lowry and Bosch.
Yeah, but I
don't know, who do you sign though? That's the thing.
But wait, hold on a second. But you're getting rid of two of those three guys.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So if you're getting rid of two of those three guys, then the guy you keep has to be your number one guy.
That's right. Huh.
So that has to be. You have to go with T-Mac.
Do you have to go with T-Mac though?
In 2000, you go with T-Mac. In 2000, you go with T-Mac.
But 07 Chris Bosh was like 22 and 10.
Yeah, but in 07, look, I'm going to say something now. In 07,
don't talk shit about the 07 team. Come on, man.
No, in 07, the whole thing with Bosch, maybe I wouldn't have thought this in 07, but in 09, I was definitely like, you got to trade him because he's going to walk, and even if you sign him, you're capping your team. You're never going to be better because it's clear that he wasn't a number one guy.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's exactly what happened. The minute he went to a team with a number one guy or a number one and number two guy, he found his destiny, and that was great. So based on that alone, it's tough to sort of go. You're talking about T-Mac. Well, how old was he in 2000? 22?
I think he was 21.
Yeah. So
really young,
you're looking at a guy who suddenly looked like a really who remember that playoffs those playoffs, the 2000 playoffs where Vince Carter got embarrassed and the Raptors got annihilated. It was T-Mac who showed up. I don't know if you were following it then. No? Yes?
In 2000, I was freshly entering the great country of Canada. So
okay.
I was unfortunately not following, yeah.
In 2000, I remember the game one, Carter shot something like 3 for 20, and T-Mac had like a 25 and 10 or something. And this was a guy who was like on and off, I think, on the bench. Like he'd played, but he was a key part of the team, but it was like he was just sort of emerging as the key part of the team. And then in the playoffs, all of a sudden it was like, oh, T-Mac, what's up? And then that basically, like it was clear that he was going on to better things, and he did.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah. Of course, his knee fell apart, and then that's it. But I mean, the guy was the scoring leader for like a couple years there, and he was a good defender.
Yeah, in an era where there were a ton of prodigal scorers. We're talking about competing with Allen Iverson, young LeBron, prime Kobe, and T-Mac won a couple of those scoring titles with Orlando.
His skill set now, like what's funny is that he would be like, you could play him. He was like of a Rudy Gay size, so you could play him at a small ball 3 or 4. And like do all kinds of funky things with him because he could play anywhere, shoot anywhere, finish at the rim, all kinds of different things. I'd say you sign him. Oh man, the other one I don't know. I feel like
I guess you would trade Chris Bosh because I feel like Chris Bosh in 07 would have more value than Lowry in 15.
Exactly, and that's the other thing. Lowry in 15 is obviously a good player, but you're already talking about a 29, 30-year-old point guard whose like utility is like, okay, he's a starting point guard. He's a good starting point guard. I don't know. This is an impossible question.
Yeah.
You're asking what you could get more for. Could you get more for a all-star, appears to be number one option in Chris Bosh, power forward, who then goes on to reinvent his game and become even more valuable? Or do you talk about the 30-year-old point guard who gradually plays himself into being a great player? That's tough.
Yeah. I think ultimately I agree with you. Like in terms of if you had to sign one, T-Mac in 2000 was clearly a breakout star.
Yeah.
Although it is kind of close. If obviously we got the benefit of hindsight here, but Chris Bosh at the time also looked like a budding star as well, but not to the same extent. And I guess you got to trade Bosh, which makes me feel terrible about saying waiving Kyle Lowry, who, at this point has like a somewhat decent claim to being the best player in Raptors history, or having at least a couple of the best seasons in Raptors history. I'll say that much.
That's a weird conversation to have about who's the best Raptor in history, because it's basically like there's basically 4 names.
Yeah.
And all of them have like.
That's Bosh, Vince.
Or 2 of them have
Lowry.
At least 2 of them have weird. And DeRozan, you have to put DeRozan in that conversation.
I thought you were going to put Bargnani in that conversation.
Oh, you have to put DeRozan in that conversation, but there's caveats with all of them.
How dare you slander Mighty Mouse?
Well, he's another one, yeah.
Kind of.
But you can't put. He was only here
when he was here.
Yeah, he was good as a face of a franchise at the time, but he was gone this year, and he complained to get out. So And that was because the team was imploding at the time, like from management on down, so I can't really blame him.
Yeah, one of the first few times the team was imploding. But
no, that was the worst one, I can assure you. That was the
nothing will ever top Babcock trading Vince Carter for a bag of balls. Ever.
Oh,
inexcusable.
Yeah.
It sucks that
there were so many trades. There were so many trades that, like, in retrospect, like, one of the 2 of the most hilarious trades when you add it up. Not to get carried away here, but since we're talking about it, when they made the trade for Oakley and the trade for Davis, in both cases, like those trades really worked out for the Raptors.
Yes.
For those couple of years, they really helped legitimize the team. It obviously helped them in their sort of playoff, desires. But they traded like a 3rd year, like center in what's the third year? Yeah, something like that. Second or third year. Who was maybe a bit injury prone, Marcus Camby. They trade him for like a 34-year-old power forward who can't jump. Now, Oakley has a utility, and he was definitely very useful for them, but they traded him. Then they get the 5th pick. They draft a high schooler, 7-foot phenom, who, in retrospect, his knee, he never played, his knees never worked out, and blah blah blah. But they traded him for like a backup power forward, essentially.
Yep.
And it's like, if you made those trades now, it'd be like, what are you doing? They would have killed those guys. They would have killed Grunwald on Twitter if that had existed in 1999.
Twitter would have gone crazy about Jonathan Bender.
Yeah, to trade the 5th pick for a solid power forward center, but like that's it. Like it just turned out that Davis had like 3 of the best years of his career when he was here. Fantastic, but like that's an insane gamble.
Yeah.
And the same thing with Camby. It's like Camby went on to have like a long career, and he was very useful in a bunch of different places.
He was tactically back with the Raptors.
Oh, yeah, that's right, yeah. And Oakley obviously was like useful very much, and he's still my favorite Raptor. But it's like, man, those trades were bonkers. Like, I mean, that's crazy. Almost as bad as trading Roy Hibbert for Jermaine O'Neal. No, that's not so bad now.
Yeah. Well, all right, that does it for the podcast. With that sad trip through down history lane, although I guess the memory lane, I mean, and when it comes to the Raptors, there's not a lot of proud history, or not a lot of fond history to look back upon. Although, still, we had our moments. The Raptors had their moments, had their teams. Chris Bosh in 2007, that was a great team. That was not a great team. That was a decent team. It definitely, I love that team. That's still my favorite team, which is
the 2007 team.
Yeah, I don't know. It's the first time in my Raptors fandom where I was just like, wow, the Raptors could be a great team. I mean, we can win the Atlantic Division. We can lose in the first round of the playoffs. And then the Raptors kept losing in the first round of the playoffs. But
what's impressive about that 2007 team was that they managed to assemble a decent team with like guys that like no one else was looking at.
Yep.
And that's impressive. Like that, you know what? We can kill Colangelo all day, but he found a bunch of guys that no one was looking at, and they were useful for a little while.
Anthony Parker, that was a great international scouting find, man. I thought Colangelo was going to find all these dudes from overseas that were just killing it and bringing it together like Spurs, but not really.
He thought so too.
He definitely thought so. Yeah. All right. Well, this is fun. Dan, again, thanks again for saving the show. You killed it in your wisdom and your movie knowledge and preseason stuff. I hope we talked enough Raptors, but I also enjoy talking about non-Raptors topics sometimes. It's
right on.
So it's good to have you on, buddy.
Right, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, read Raptors HQ, but only after you've clicked and read everything on Raptors Republic. If you still have time left over, go to Raptors HQ. They got some great guys over there, Dan especially. Once you start those Bebe columns, man, let us know. We'll put you on.
Right on.
Yeah. All right. Thanks everyone for listening to the podcast. You can rate, subscribe, do whatever you need. Patreon if you really like to hear more about Blake's game and keep Blake in Nikes and stuff. We're all here for Blake. He's our Kyle Lowry for sure. So I'm happy to be the passenger for the moment, like Jonas Valanciunas, who we talked about on this podcast. And like Jonas, I'm a little bit clumsy in my game sometimes because this should have been a much shorter closing sentence. So again, thanks to Dan Reynolds of Raptors HQ, and thanks for listening. We'll come back next week.